Hello and welcome back to Only Winners Last, the YouTube channel that's designed for entrepreneurs that want to learn from real life experience and just learn how to make it in this crazy business environment. So last week we celebrated 50 subscribers and we asked you guys to write in the comments what you would like us to talk about. And I think one of the coolest comments was from Dimitri, and Dimitri asked us, what do you think about being nice versus getting things done? I love that question. Dimitri, you're gonna get this cool book. We're gonna get details from you on where to send it. So congratulations. And now as for your question, I love it on many different levels. Here's the way I look at it. I think that it's an evolution of an entrepreneur. And in the beginning, most people that are starting off with no experience, they try to be nice. They try to get things done by being nice, by being polite, and trying to make everybody like them. Now, as they go on with their businesses, as they grow or their business grows or they get to work with people, they actually get to hire some people. At least in my case, in my experience, they should learn that being nice rarely gets things done. Being nice rarely is effective or efficient and it's just not very productive. The problem is it's very, very difficult for people who even understand that being nice doesn't get them anywhere to change. So there's a saying in the financial markets that the market can stay irrational much longer than you can stay liquid. I kind of feel it's exactly the same way. People stay a little bit irrational for way too long, even though they understand that they shouldn't be so nice, being nice doesn't work. They irrationally still want people to like them, even at the cost of their own business. And that's a problem. Now, within this topic, I personally, when we talk about being nice, let's just make it clear. We're talking about being nice versus getting things done in business. I'm not saying you should be an asshole in life. You should not be nice to people. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the context of business. And in that context, there's one book I love. I told you guys before, The Prince by Machiavelli. That's my sort of Bible go-to book when it comes to how to deal with business. And I want to read a quote to you guys, and I think it summarizes everything I want to say perfectly. So it says like this: every prince will want to be considered merciful, but mercy should not be mismanaged. No prince should mind being called cruel for keeping his subject peaceful and loyal. Punishing a few and thus averting the disorder is better than allowing troubles to develop that will hurt many. If you cannot be both loved and feared, then it's better to be feared than loved. Men are generally fickle, afraid of danger, and greedy. When a prince benefits them, they will do anything for the prince. But when the trouble comes, they will desert the prince. People will break ties of love if it is to their advantage, but the fear of punishment they will never transgress. A prince must be careful not to make himself hated, even though he is feared. To do this, he must keep his hands off the subject's property and their women. People will sooner forget the death of a father than the loss of an inheritance. I think it's an absolute perfect way to summarize your question. Now, there's a lot to break down. There's a lot to digest in this. So let's start from the first thing. So what he says is that you cannot be both loved and feared. And I totally agree. And I totally agree that if you can't be both, you should choose being feared. Why you can't be both? You see, to be loved, to be nice, to be like friendly to everybody, that requires one sort of action pattern. To be feared requires a totally different action pattern. And if you can't do both. If you want to get things done, you need to learn to demand things from people. You need to know how to guide them, how to teach them, how to review their work, how to punish them if they haven't done it, or how to reward them for things that they've done well. Now, when you do that, you're already sort of distancing yourself from the person that you're guiding or teaching or reviewing or punishing, right? So if you take those actions, if you take that action pattern, it's very difficult to expect somebody to love you when you're doing that to them. But trust me, it's the far more effective way of doing things. The next thing that this little paragraph said is that people that that you think love you, people that pretend to love you or think that you're nice, they will do it as long as it serves their needs. As long as things are going great, you're easy to love. You know, when things start turning sour, when shit hits the fan, a lot of the time you will see people jump ship. It has happened to me more times than I can count in business. You know, and the problem with it was that you're being nice to people and you're actually going above and beyond for them. So I had a lot of people working for me who obviously they got paid for the job they did, but I thought to be a little extra nice to them, help them out, sort some of their personal issues, you know, financial issues and so on. And I thought that, you know, I don't mind doing it because that person is working for me and he's comfortable, he's gonna be more loyal, he's gonna work harder. The problem is that when people get close to you and work for you, they don't think of it as, you know, I'm getting paid for my job and the things that I'm doing are for the salary that I'm getting. They begin to think that all of these extra things that you're doing for them, you actually also owe them because they're doing a great job for you. And at the point where your roads separate, they don't think of it, well, you know, he did all these great things for me, maybe even though times are hard, I should stick around. They're thinking, well, I've done all of these things for him. Obviously, he should have, you know, paid me back with all these favors that he's done. I don't owe him anything. People tend to overestimate their contribution to the cause, and they think that most of it is because of them. It doesn't matter. They don't see your role in it. They don't see all the things that you had to do to even get to where we are. They feel like most of it is because of the work they've done, that they're irreplaceable, that their contribution is absolutely priceless. And that's when your roads tend to part ways and people tend to jump ship. So being nice, to me, is sort of an amateur entrepreneurish kind of way of doing things. I've learned the hard way that with putting some fear into people, with a sort of way of them thinking that I will do this because I'm afraid of a punishment, is far more productive than asking them to do something because you're nice. Remember this, people are selfish. They will not do you any favors because you ask them to do it. They will do you favors if they think that A, it will benefit them, or it will help them grow in their own personal way, or because they're afraid that if they don't do it, you may change your relationship to them, they may lose their job, you may not trust them, and so on. Far more effective. Finally, there's a distinction there between being feared and being hated, and I think it's a very important distinction. And in the paragraph it says that you don't want to be hated, and the way you're not hated is by never messing with people's property and women. You know, it's a kind of old way of saying things, but generally, don't mess with people's money. It's cool if they fear you, it's cool if they're afraid for their job, but if you ever mess with people's property, or their close ones, it's something they will never, ever, ever forget. So if you ever mess with people's money and they stay working for you, you have to understand that they will always have this sort of sense of resentment, this always sense of they remember and one day they will take their revenge. That's the way that people are. So I hope that answers your question, Dimitri. I'm absolutely convinced today that it's better to be feared than loved. It's better to get shit done rather than being nice, because being nice really doesn't carry you forward. It gets you to a certain point, but you can't grow later because everybody expects you to act a certain way. They expect you to be very nice. They expect you to always understand when they have a problem. And when you're in that zone, it's kind of like being in a friend zone. When you get to that zone of being the nice guy, you're getting as far as possible away from the zone where you have authority to ask for something, to demand something to get done on time, correctly, and so on. Now, there's a huge problem associated with getting shit done, and that's the problem of consequences. Because every time you take in the route of getting shit done rather than being nice, there are consequences. But that's something we're gonna talk about next week. I have a lot of really, really interesting personal stories to tell you about consequences and facing consequences. So stay tuned, hit the bell, subscribe, and see you next week.